Welcome to the Plant Grow REAP podcast.
Welcome back to the Plant Grow REAP podcast. I'm Zoe, the Accounting Operations Manager at Aintree Group, and today I'm joined by our Governance Manager, Julie. Hi, Julie.
Hi, Zoe.
So good to see you.
You too.
Today we're going to tackle a big impact business topic, the new Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Terrorism Financing Obligations. These reforms are particularly relevant for professional services firms, including those operating in accounting, legal, financial planning, and finance sectors. So this episode is a must listen for anyone working in or advising within those spaces. So, Julie, since the reforms were announced, you have read all the information that's been provided by AUSTRAC, the governing body for these reforms, and you've also attended a number of webinars, so you are across AML CTF. What is it? For anyone who's not across it, can you provide a broad overview of what this is and why it's so important in 2026?
Absolutely. Thank you, Zoe. I will start at the very beginning. As you said, AML CTF stands for Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Terrorism Financing. And for those who don't or are not familiar, as I wasn't, what exactly that means is we're referring to the money being cleaned through financial services, or financial systems rather, originating from all manner of harmful crimes. So that includes things such as illicit tobacco, drug trafficking, human trafficking, child exploitation, cybercrime, environmental destruction, and corruption. So lots of things that we don't necessarily hear about in mainstream media. I certainly didn't know much about it at all. But yeah, every dollar that is laundered is a dollar invested in harm to individuals, families, our communities, and our businesses. So, and another interesting fact I learnt on one of the many, feels like thousands of webinars I've attended on this topic. It's estimated that the amount of money being washing around the world, which is generated annually by crime, is equivalent to the GDP of both Australia and New Zealand. And for those in the know, that is around $2.5 trillion per year.
Staggering. That's a staggering
which
amount.
Absolutely blew me away when I heard that, when you put a figure on it. So it's fundamentally important. I know some businesses will see this as added work and an imposition, but I think it's really, really important that we understand the why behind all of this. We are actually having the opportunity to play a role in helping to stem this. The banks and other financial providers are just one part of the puzzle. And tranche 2 of the AML CTF reform now brings in the businesses that you mentioned. So we are classed, those businesses are classed as gatekeepers, if you like, and we see a different part of the puzzle. So with our skill and knowledge about what is normal and what is legitimate and how our clients normally behave, we're in a really strong position to be able to identify things that don't add up, and therefore potentially could be suspicious and ultimately be reported. So we all play a really vital role in providing great intelligence about what's going on to support the great work that AUSTRAC is doing. And for those not familiar with AUSTRAC, they perform a dual role as Australia's Anti-Money Laundering and Counter-Terrorism Financing Regulator and also Australia's Financial Intelligence Unit. So they administer and enforce Australia's anti-money laundering laws with a view to ensuring that our intelligence function can operate effectively.
Amazing. It's really interesting, I think, when you look at the human side of it, because this is obviously focusing on businesses and how businesses can help the anti-money laundering or the counter-terrorism financing. But when you put a human side to it and then also the staggering amount that it costs, it's really puts it into a bigger picture.
Absolutely.
And hopefully will make some businesses want to really join in on they'll have to, but it'll put that different aspect to it, I feel.
I hope so, yeah.
So thank you for that big overview. Love it. Obviously know your stuff. What does the AML CTF reform entail for businesses?
Good question. So, as you mentioned, this the Tranche 2 reform. So, we've already been doing part of this for the past 20 years in Australia. So, from the 1st of July 2026, the Tranche 2 reforms will bring a range of professional services into the mix. So, that includes, as you said, accountants, lawyers, real estate agents, trust and company service providers, and also precious metals and stones dealers. So, it has been around for a long time. We've definitely been lagging behind global standards in these industries, hence the change, and the reforms are addressing that. So this is the biggest change to the regime in 2 decades, and has one simple goal, and that's to close down avenues to organised crime. So they're the businesses that are impacted. AUSTRAC have provided extensive guidance in the form of webinars, starter kits, e-learning modules, webinars and things like that, which is unparalleled worldwide in implementation of this type of thing. So I feel like businesses are getting a great deal of support from AUSTRAC in starting off their efforts. Would you like to know how I've approached it?
Yeah, well, first, before going to that,
Yeah.
I'd like to know, you mentioned briefly what the support AUSTRAC is providing, AUSTRAC being the governing body for these reforms. Does that differ between, because this will obviously impact small businesses, medium, large businesses, does it differ between the businesses, or is it a one-size-fits-all? Can it be tailored to the business? What are the sort of aspects around that support that they're offering?
Great question. I've looked at it from the approach of accounting and legal, and the guidance they've given is the starter kits they're provided are aimed at less complex firms with less than 15 people. That doesn't mean that other firms can't use it, which we definitely have. We have over 15 and a bit more complex in our accounting team. So I definitely encourage businesses not to read that and go, that doesn't apply to us. What are we going to do? It's definitely, I found it very useful. But yeah, they do make it pretty clear that it is, their guidance is aimed at less complex businesses. The more complex you are, the more you'll need to customise in terms of your risk profiling and things like that.
And we're obviously in the early stages, very, very new. So assuming AUSTRAC will release more and more as we go, as the reforms continue and they get feedback and see how it's working, what's not working. So I assume it's not going to be the same for the whole duration of this reform, or however long that might be. It's just the starting point for now.
Yeah, I'm not expecting a great deal of change from this point. They have done a lot of consultation with business prior to this point. The guidance, they did provide guidance at the end of 2025, and now the starter kits were released at the end of January. So I'm not expecting a lot of change. I think they will maybe provide guidance to tighten up a few areas that may be a bit ambiguous. And yes, definitely, as people are raising questions with their professional bodies, there might be further changes. I'm not sure what their communication plan is in regards to them advising the public of what's going on. We're definitely doing that ourselves, but not expecting too many changes, just maybe a little bit of tightening up things as they go through, but they have done pretty extensive consultation, so I'm hoping there won't be too many more changes.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
So as our governance manager, you are obviously, as you've mentioned, well across all things AML CTF.
Yes.
So what's been your approach to getting Aintree Group ready for these new requirements?
Yes, so I've watched, as I said, countless webinars, basically been a sponge. I didn't know anything about this, I would say 2 months ago. And with July approaching very quickly, the advice from everyone has been start now. So that's definitely my first tip. So I'm approaching it in phases. As I mentioned, Aintree Group, it will affect our accounting and legal divisions. Our wealth and finance are already covered by this, as is superannuation. But the first phase, I started with the starter kits and started developing our policy, risk assessment and procedure, or they refer to it as your AML CTF program. So the program is your foundation for everything else, and there's a lot of guidance around what goes into it, as I mentioned. The biggest part for me has been the risk assessment, as that covers all the services we offer, referred to as designated services, the types of clients that we interact with, the delivery channels, how we work with our clients, and also the jurisdiction, so the countries in which our clients operate. So it's a fairly detailed risk assessment, but the starter kits are really, really good and a great start to help you to put that together. And a big part of the policy and program is focusing on customer due diligence and making sure that we know who we are working with. And again, I took what AUSTRAC provided and customised it for our needs. And again, that I found that quite straightforward. It is very comprehensive guidance, but I did find it relatively simple to follow and work through. So I think it's going to be really good for businesses who haven't got into that yet. So that's kind of the first phase, to put the foundations in place. The second phase is we've nominated our AML governing body within the team, our AML compliance officer, and relevant personnel who will complete, and we will need to complete due diligence on our personnel as well. It's not just clients, it's our team. So that will be the next phase to work through that. The third phase is to get the governing body to review everything that we've put together and make sure it is customised for all our business units. And the next phase after that is updating with feedback and starting to train the team, and that will be sort of April. We'll start to go through. Again, AUSTRAC provides some great e-learning modules, and then we just need to develop a module with how we're approaching it at Entry Group specifically. So that's well underway, and we'll get the team trained up on that. And AUSTRAC, we're required to register with them from the 31st of March. So that's a key milestone that we've got in the calendar. And then phase 5, after we start the training off, is just embedding it into the firm. We're not waiting for the 1st of July. We're getting started with it now, which I think I feel very confident of, not being faced with last minute and too much pressure in an already really busy time for our team leading up to tax time. So and then once we hit 1st of July, it's all about maintenance. So they've made it really clear it's a live program, and as you said, as we start getting into this and businesses start working with it and raising issues with AUSTRAC, I'm sure there'll be updates and changes. So it's here to stay.
Yeah, and it certainly doesn't seem to me, and from what you've said, that it's a knee-jerk reaction from AUSTRAC. It seems like it's been a long time coming, considering they've got so much support available. They've had the webinars, the e-learning modules. So it may seem like it crept up on businesses, and there may be a short period of time they've got to put these reforms into place within the business, but it's definitely been a long time coming, I think, from the governing body AUSTRAC.
Yeah, I agree.
It's going to be interesting to see how it works within different businesses. As I mentioned previously, big businesses, small businesses all have different nature of business and all have different resources within the business. So how much time should businesses spend or invest in this? And does that differ again between small and large businesses?
Yes, I would say yes. I think I'm in the great position of being in my role of government manager, which is not a common role in professional services firms. This is what I do. So I imagine someone who hasn't done this before, it will take a little bit of getting used to, getting your head around writing policy and procedures, which it doesn't come naturally to a lot of business owners.
Yeah, some businesses don't have a designated governance manager. Like, we're lucky enough to have usually. But yeah, some businesses don't have that. So it can be really hard for them to navigate through this
Yes.
massive change.
Yes, and I've definitely heard on webinars people that are quite concerned about it, especially smaller firms that have one or two people. And just to clarify, it applies to everyone. So no matter what size business you are, if you're on your own to larger businesses, you still have to do this work. So it has taken me, I would estimate, probably about 2 weeks to get to the point where we are now. And there's still a lot of work to do with integrating this into our current policies and procedures and the way we onboard clients and offboard clients and change in client circumstances and things like that.
And that's the other thing, if you've been doing something so long, one way for so long,
yes,
it's so hard to change it.
Yes, it is.
You know, that's where we're at the moment with these reforms.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it is a chunk of time. And once the reform requirements come into play, it is going to take longer for us to onboard new clients, and there's a time and a cost to that as well. So this is something that I know a lot of businesses in the professions we're in have been talking to their professional bodies, and I think it's really important to talk to each other about how everyone's approaching it. And there's talk about outsourcing someone else to do it for you. Again, at the end of the day, you are responsible for this in your business, so it's a level of comfort if you want to outsource that to somebody else.
And AUSTRAC are following this very carefully, so
They
you
are.
can't just
Absolve.
make anything up. Yeah, you have to show that you've done it, and if you reasons behind everything, because they are watching.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So as long as you're completely confident that things are done properly, but yeah, at the end of the day, it is a big time commitment, but it's one that we have to do. And again, coming back to the why we're doing this, it's really important. And I think, businesses overseas have been doing this for a lot longer, and it's just business as usual. So once you get over that initial, putting it all together, the implementation shouldn't be too bad. And the kits are, really good guidance. And we're also in the space of waiting for our software suppliers to provide a solution to help with this. So definitely everything AUSTRAC have provided is manual or paper-based forms and things like that, but I think we'll see over the next couple of months a lot of solutions coming through that will help with the customer due diligence and systemize or automate some of those processes, which, so don't get too freaked out when you see the number of forms and how big they are and things like that. And I'm sure, as I said, jump on forums and things like that and see what other people are doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Within the community, there's so much information. AUSTRAC's given so much information, and they've even stated themselves that they're not expecting you to be experts at this straight away. There is time to learn and pick it up and tailor it as you need. So for those that might be scared that things are going to get picked up relatively quickly, that's not what this is about.
No, absolutely not. And I think it's important to recognise that we're already doing this. It's just expanding on that. So it's just making sure that we are sure who we're doing business with, and that everything is as it should be. So
which is good for business anyway.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's a bit of a win-win.
Yes.
It's a little bit of extra work, but you're protecting your business on the one hand, and you're doing, that, like I said earlier, that the human side of it, that's those where that money is going, which is, again, quite staggering.
Yes.
What that's going towards and the amount. So,
exactly.
Yeah. Tips for business. Do you have any tips for any businesses listening today? We've spoken about where you can find info, but any tips for businesses that you'd like to share?
Absolutely. Start now is my first tip. Don't put it off any longer. Make a start now and get help if you need it. Download the starter kits. Absolutely go to AUSTRAC and set up your policy risk assessment and program procedures. that will give you some confidence. And again, you can get that done within a couple of weeks, and then you've got a really good foundation to start planning for what else you need to do. There is a lot of work, and there are hefty penalties for non-compliance. So I can't reiterate enough, if you keep putting it off, it's going to be really painful.
Yes. And
So
it's
do
all
it now.
about the record keeping as well.
Yes.
Record everything.
Yeah.
Not, meetings or whatever, but the onboarding, everything like that. Why something couldn't progress. Just
Yes.
make sure you keep a note of it.
Absolutely.
Because AUSTRAC will be wanting that information.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as you said, they're very keen to work with businesses. They know there's a lot of businesses in tranche 2, and they don't expect us to be perfect, but they do expect us to show that we have tried to put in place things and implement this. And if you're a business that doesn't have procedures already, then that's a good time to get your house in order and get things in place. So, but yeah, definitely recommend to attend webinars for your industry that are put on. Most of the industry bodies are doing webinars or training in some way, shape or form. So there was a great webinar that AUSTRAC did with Ray Martin hosting, which I believe is on YouTube. But go to their website. That was a really interesting one I found, for just the overall context of what AUSTRAC do, the seriousness of the issue, and it had representatives of legal and conveyancing on there. So that was a really good one. There's lots of other ones going around. I also recommend to follow AUSTRAC on LinkedIn. They're very, very good at posting updates and resources on there. So as a minimum, follow them and subscribe to their updates on their website. They have a quarterly newsletter, I believe. So subscribe so that you get all the latest information and, just learn as much as you can about it.
Yeah, I watched that Ray Martin webinar and I thought it was fabulous. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it did a lot to quash some of the aspects of this reform that some businesses were quite scared of. So I thought it was really, really interesting to watch.
Yes.
Yeah, learned a lot. So definitely recommend webinars where you can.
Yes.
I have another question, but I don't know if it's appropriate, but hey, why not? So this, AUSTRAC has introduced this not as a scare tactic for businesses, but, we're trying to stop the the money laundering and the, terrorism and all of that. Do you think this might scare businesses who are maybe not as above board as they should be into, just not honing in, but, those procedures need to become a bit more streamlined, or they can't do things the way they used to do them. They have to be very by the book now. Do you think that's... Because, look, I'm not naive to think that some businesses do every single thing by the book.
Yep.
But do you think this is also not a scare tactic, but do you think this will scare some businesses into getting into shape, whipping into shape? And
I hope so. I think it is a really important thing and will help to focus them on what's important and what matters. As they said on that webinar, there will always be people trying to do it. It's big business. But I do hope businesses will think about what they're doing and the people that they're doing business with, and instead of writing it off as harmless or, won't make a big difference, just to start to think about their actions and how it impacts on their communities and the businesses and things around them. They had some really good information on mule bank accounts. I think 14,000 odd bank accounts were shut down last year because of what they found out, and things like that we just don't get to hear about. But they also spoke about AI and the role it plays in creating fake IDs and that sort of thing as well. So it's a really big topic, and I think having a focus on it is not a bad thing. And with the industries included that work together anyway, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what sort of impact it has over the first 6 to 12 months of this coming in, to see what we're able to do or able to assist AUSTRAC in what they're doing.
And it's not just, the CEO's responsibility or the director's responsibility. No. You mentioned at Aintree Group we've got our own AML CTF governing body, but it's not their responsibility to be monitoring this. It's the responsibility of the whole team, every
Yes.
member of Aintree Group.
Yes, absolutely. And it's really important to understand it's personal liability. It's not, the firm will be hit with the fines. They will come after you personally. So it's really important for professionals listening in that you understand these obligations and how they relate to your professional requirements, because, it has the opportunity to impact you on a personal level. So again, it shouldn't be anything new. You've already got, like, the accountants have the Tax Agent Services Act, lawyers have their own as well. So this shouldn't be anything scary or out of the box. It's just, again, bringing that focus on always doing the right thing and upholding the ethics of the profession.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, Julie.
Thank you.
It's been very, very great having you here.
Thank you.
And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and we'll be back with another episode soon.